Hey,
All right.
happy
Up
Wednesday.
and running. Happy Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
Yay.
Welcome to The Exit, Leaving Christianity.
I am Jess, and this is my dad.
I'm Bullet Head Dad.
Yeah, he's
A
got a
band-aid is a
flesh
new
wound.
look on my forehead, so it's just always there. Oh,
You'll be
wrong.
able to see like the chronicling of it over the live streams. It started out this big and it just gets smaller and smaller, but the wound is healing, so that's good news.
Yes.
I got a lot of beverages today.
Band-aids heal all wounds.
Mm.
And I got water. So, welcome to
Good for
The
you.
Exit. So, this is our weekly live stream, Wednesdays at 5 o'clock Eastern Time,
Yeah.
and hangout place for those who are considering questioning their faith, maybe considering leaving, have doubts, hang-ups, questions, and don't have a safe place to hang out and listen about that or ask questions about it. That's what we're here for.
Yay.
So we do the chat, and you can ask questions or just hang out or talk with other people via chat. But if you have a question, we've got that up. You can just type in a question, we'll answer you, or a comment or a disagreement or anything like that.
We love chat interaction. So as much as you want to jump in there,
We've had two,
we've had a few.
but we did
But
start
we love
it.
the chat.
I saw a live stream where another person does this, and they kind of gets like the same group weekly that hangs out, and then get some people that are questioning and asking, and that kind of thing. I kind of was talking to Jess about wanting to model after that, so that's what we do. Now ours is kind of
Yeah.
very similar, less sans the people.
Exactly. Just with less people.
So what it's turned into is me and Jess talking about things
Yay.
related to atheism, because she's an atheist.
Oh. Oh.
What?
The A word.
Atheist.
And I think it's funny. That's why I want to do tonight's topic. It's like 8 facts about atheists, some facts about atheists, because I think atheism has such a stigma and people think it's like the boogeyman word. And I know growing up, like if you heard someone was an atheist, I was obviously very religious and it would be like, oh God,
Yeah.
not an atheist, the worst thing ever. So I thought it'd be fun to just like shine a flashlight on that scary dark corner and see
Yeah.
what are really atheists. Do they eat babies? Do they worship Satan?
Do they eat Satan's babies?
Do they eat, yeah, drink goat's bloods? Sacrifice people? Let's find out.
You're sassafras.
I am. But I used to think that
Sassafras.
atheism was like a horrible thing. And I asked actually my really good friend after he deconstructed, I was like, so are you like a Satanist now? And he goes, no, I don't think there is Satan. So I'm not a Satanist. But it's funny thinking, looking back, how I kind of correlated atheism with like devil worship. It just it just did not occur to me to like separate the two. So
I agree. Chanting Latin music from the Omen.
That's pig Latin.
Pig Latin.
Are we signed? Do we have to sign into the chat, or is it already open?
No, we
Or it's
are.
just saying that.
One of the things I've tried to teach you as an apprentice in the world of live streaming.
The dark arts.
See, like if you're ever, it's a doc. If you just go to doc and hit chat,
I
boom, it's
see.
up and running. The one thing we are lacking is a person to chat
People
with
chatting.
us. But if they did, think of the things that would happen. You could have live chat, all messages are
Oh.
visible, which I think let's go with that.
Let's do that.
You could have a top fan, that could be the person who chats the most, which at this point it would just take a single hi.
All you'd have to do is say hi, and you would have a top fan crown.
Exactly.
So if you want to be that person, talk to us, please. Just kidding. Oh, we're participating.
But it's okay if not, because we're
hanging
putting
out.
these out there, and we do find some people listen to them, and that's
Shockingly, and comment.
yeah, and that's cool. That's just could be encouraging someone, or maybe working another person into a frenzy.
That's happened too. I think it's really interesting, like how many people, since I kind of came out as having deconstructed, reached out and are in a similar spot, but didn't want to say so because of backlash and stigma and all that. So
Yeah.
and then also what I expected was a lot of people, what, like losing their minds. So it was kind of some of both, but as long as people are talking, I don't really care.
Let's give them something
To
to
talk
talk about.
about exactly.
Talk about love.
That was horrible. No, it was beautiful. I
Wow.
loved it.
So we're going to talk today. Just found an article from the Pew. Okay, I had a medical procedure again. This is medical
Yeah.
procedure week, and the one just took me because I had to have someone drive me home because they gave me the twilight medication during the
Yeah.
medication, and that's where you're kind of out, but you're in and out, and then afterwards you feel a little loopy.
Yes.
Mine's wearing off, but I'm still having a few glitches. So
That's why article became artle.
what? Oh, did I
You were,
just say that?
yeah. You're
Oh,
like, just found an artle. That's why I started laughing. We actually had a lot of fun today, believe it or not, at the medical center goofing around and stuff. I feel like we
medical
could
center.
have what did I say?
People in some people call them hospitals,
Oh.
and if you're in England, it's hospital.
I say medical center, you say artole,
I went to a
you
hospital.
say tomato, I say tomato.
This is very true. Well,
But I found an article, and it's 8 facts about atheists that I thought would be interesting to talk about, so we can kind of humanize.
do you think these are true for all? Are these really facts?
I don't know. It's from Pew Research, which I guess is good. I think that you can take all research or all like polls when they're giving stats with a grain of salt and say, obviously, you
I
can't
would
poll
say
every
that.
single person in a country. However, I think it does
It's
give
not. It
some
is.
context.
I didn't realize that there was like statistical uh, mm, truths, maths. I don't know what I'm saying.
Maths, probably.
Maths, but that like you can pull a certain number in a demographic and it will play out statistically pretty accurate. I don't know how they
Oh, interesting.
I don't know how they figure that out, but people do that.
Oh, okay.
That's why you can get some pretty accurate information and not having to pull everybody in the United. You can do a sample size and it'll give you a good picture snapshot. But you're right, it's not. And I was saying too, like when you say facts about atheists, are there some atheists out there that some of this doesn't fit? Sure.
Yeah, exactly. I
We
think
just
that's
thought
a
it was a
good.
good launch starting point.
I think that's a good thing to say too. And also, before we start, I would say I do consider myself probably an agnostic atheist. I certainly don't believe that there's enough historical evidence in the biblical God, and I'm thankful for that because he was pretty freaking cruel, pretty horrifying. But I also can't 100% prove that there's not any kind of God. But personally, I would lean toward probably not. I don't know if that's relevant to this conversation, but that's where I consider myself.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. It's scary.
Don't be sweated.
Don't be
So
scared.
let's go through one. What's the first one?
In the US, atheists are mostly men and relatively young. So, according to a center survey conducted in summer of 2023, around 6 out of 10 US atheists are men, 64%, and 7 in 10 are ages 49 or younger, compared with about half of US adults overall. So, I thought I wonder why that is. I was speculating on that actually on the drive over here of why it would be more men than women.
I'm
I
not
have
sure.
some theories.
Lay it on me, sister.
Well, I don't want it to sound sexist because I'm obviously a feminist. I'm a woman, but I wonder if
Wait, are all feminists women?
no, you can definitely be. It just means like baseline it means that you believe men and women are equal.
What? Who told you that?
Stormed out.
I'm
Not the Bible.
Turning the tables.
See our last live stream, Submit Woman, if you want to know how the Bible thinks about women. Not a feminist.
Yeah.
But I wonder if because of kind of roles, like gender roles that are put on people in our society and I don't know, like, this is something that I've observed, but I don't know if this is because of how you're like supposed to be in society or if because it's real or not, but that women do tend to be a little bit more of like the sensitive type than men are. And I don't think that that's necessarily like because that's just how they are. I think it's probably because that's how societally it's like men have to be like mathematical and strong and engineer minded and stuff like that, that maybe there's like a little bit more that they're allowed to be a little bit more pragmatic and looking at things.
Mm,
And so
very
maybe they would
true.
be more prone to coming up with like, hey, this some of the stuff in the Bible has like no factual grounding, and maybe because of the way that women are uh, kind of treated, like they're supposed to be more sensitive and think in those sort of terms. I know plenty of female atheists, but I just wonder that, and I hesitate to say this is how men are and this is how women are, because it's not like there are sensitive men, there are not sensitive women. It's obviously not just like because you're that way, not because you're a female are you that way, but that
Yeah,
is the
the other
only
thing,
thing that I could come up with.
and the other thing to me, that wasn't like, I think it was just given the numbers, like 64%. So if you were to say 6 in 10 atheists are men, that's pretty. If it was 5 and 5, it'd be 50-50.
Yeah, exactly.
So 6 out of 10, that's pretty close. And I think there is something more, like if you go online, and I don't know where they're getting atheists, like who they polled, and we could um, read the survey like statistics and who they polled and how they did that, but I don't know who they were polling, but like watching if you on online or YouTube or TikTok, those debates,
Yes.
when it comes to this whole topic, atheist, it seems like a lot of it's men, and I think might that be part of what you're saying is like when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to you're coming out of a religion. Let's say if these are atheist women that are coming out of religion, not only do they have to overcome the whole dogma of the religion, but also that part where they're not supposed to be the ones teaching,
Mm-hmm.
speaking about this, and that runs deep in a lot. So I
Yeah, it
always
does.
wonder if that's why you see more men in atheist spaces on live streams and that kind of thing, is because they were the ones that were doing the teaching as Christians. So when they transition out, it'd be probably more natural to,
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. There's a lot of
but not saying that's where they're like that's who they polled or anything, but
no, but that would make sense if you're coming out of a situation where it's like you're really not supposed to talk as much, and you're supposed to not teach or lead men. That would make sense then. It's not just an immediate switch that flips, and then oh, now I'm going to be out front and speaking and teaching people. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate the comment. I think we're definitely not like a debate space. Um, I always appreciate like people jumping in. We're definitely more of like a kind of support group for people who are already in that deconstructing
yeah.
mindset. Um, there are definitely atheists out there that can give plausible answers, but we're not necessarily here to argue. We're more creating like a safe space for people who are already in that mindset.
Yeah, but it's an excellent question, and
Yeah,
I
it
do
is.
think like I couldn't live without a creator, without my mom.
Ew, just kidding.
I mean,
But yeah,
seriously, my
yeah,
parents did create me, so there is a creator in that way. But
yeah. there's
there's just no evidence for a divine creator. Claims and faiths and religions and stories and books, but so I think everything can exist without it because we're all here, and the one thing that isn't here yet that anyone's able to demonstrably demonstrate is a creator, God. So I up until the time that's done, um, we're pretty much the obvious is that we are all here without a creator, a divine creator.
Yeah.
And I think abiogenesis, evolution, there's all kinds of uh, reasons how people have evolved and species have evolved and life has evolved. So
I do think that
it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I think the onus though, because like there isn't physical, tangible evidence of a God. No one's ever seen him. I think the onus would definitely be on the person with the belief. And if somebody had evidence or like could show you that God, then awesome. But I think the onus is there because there isn't a tangible something that you can see,
Yeah.
touch, interact
And
with.
that's an excellent question. When has no agency did it ever been a better answer than someone did it? I would say always, like always. So one thing we don't have, and like I think that's what every atheist is asking. Like the whole question on, particularly if you're talking about God of the Bible, Jesus, like all we would need is to see them. Like she's here, and we all know it, and there's no question.
Yeah.
Like the one challenge with God and Jesus and Allah and all those is no one can see him. Everybody that follows him has different interpretations, different understandings, different reasons why. But the one thing we don't see is that deity,
Yeah.
which would really answer all the question. Um,
Can you show that the physical world is all that there is? No, but I can show that it is here.
yeah, we can show that it is here. You just
Yeah.
have to look around. And one thing we look around and don't see is that is a creator. Well, I would love to. That's one of the reasons. And so some people, um, those are all good questions. And again, if you're here to ask these questions, reason and science, that's a lot.
We'll go with reason and
Yeah,
science.
if
And
you
you did
in
earn a
reasons,
top fan badge.
that's really cool. If you're really here to ask these questions because you don't know and you're seeking out the answers, that's awesome. But like Jess was saying, if this is to debate, there's a lot of other spaces for that online, and I can refer you to some that where they love to go through and answer these questions. A great one would be Deconstruction Zone. Um,
Oh, yeah.
Justin at Deconstruction Zone, his set up to do that and has all kinds of answers. We have the same ones and have studied those. May or may not know my background. I was a Christian for my whole life. I was a pastor. What led me to believe that this is not true was the Bible and really digging in and studying the Bible, which is, as far as we know, the only revelation we have of who that God is, and just all the contradictions and challenges and myths and
Yeah.
document theory, hypothesis theories, and just all the stuff that goes along with it. That's all out there, and there's people who'll debate that. What we're not doing is debating that here. We're here for people who are saying, hey, I'm reading the Bible, I'm seeing these inconsistencies, I'm asking my pastor or other Christians, and I get these pat answers. They'll say things like, if you cannot answer these questions, you have no warrant to hold your position, which is just a ridiculous thing to say.
I'm wondering if
Because
this
you
is
could,
a bot.
oh, it is.
I'm wondering if this is a bot because I just realized he's not, or they, or whoever is not really directly even.
Oh, it is.
Maybe. Do we think maybe? And the one time we don't have our mod in here to kick people out because it feels like copy pasted stuff or like maybe bot stuff. Oh, we had our first
Oh.
bot. I think. But reason and science, if you're not a bot, we're just not a debate space. So
Yeah.
it's cool. Like if you want to go to a debate space, that's not what
The
we are.
deconstruction zone.
Deconstruction zone. Go there.
But all of those
I wanna
questions
come
you've
watch.
asked are excellent questions, and they're all
I
the
am not a
ones.
bot. That sounds like
And
a
those
bot.
are all the questions I've asked and studied for years and led me to
Yeah.
the point where I could no longer believe it is true. So, because one of the things that got me there is I'm just being told all of these things. I have to believe this. You can't have that position without this, whatever the argument is. But the one thing we don't have evidence for in person, live, right here that we can see, interact with, know, touch, feel, hear, see in our daily lives, especially that works in line with his claimed revelation to mankind is God or Jesus.
Yeah.
Those are the things I could not find. And if you have, awesome, go to church, go do your thing. That's not what we do. So
Yeah, we
Uh,
just arrived at different conclusions,
yeah,
and that is okay.
and it's for people that are arriving at those same. So,
And we don't need to send a link. Although I am not a bot sounds just like something a bot would say. Just kidding.
but anyway, let's go on with what's.
Number two, so we're doing we derailed a little bit, but we were excited. People are in the chat. So we appreciate people jumping in. Congratulations, you are a top fan badge holder at the moment. But we're going over just facts about atheists from this cool article that I found. And number one was that in the US, atheists are mostly men, although slanted maybe a little bit more toward men. Number two is almost all of US atheists, 98%, say religion is not too or not at all important in their lives. I don't think that's like a shocking fact about atheists, though.
Well,
I think that you would assume that.
what I liked is that 2% said it was, because I have heard like
I know. I think that's
some
interesting.
atheists practice some form of religious practice,
Yeah.
maybe devotions of some sort to something. I don't know what that would be, but
Or even
not
going to-
to a god. Not,
Yeah.
it's not to a god, but yeah, I'd say that one's pretty straightforward.
Or even like going to church for the community or because they like the culture or something like that. So I definitely think that's kind of interesting. And then US atheist number three is US atheists and religiously affiliated Americans find meaning in their lives in some of the same ways, which I thought that was kind of interesting too. Let me scroll down on this a little bit.
Yeah, so again, this is a Pew survey we're reading, and it's just talking about like uh, interesting facts that they surveyed that they find common amongst atheists.
And I thought this was really fascinating. And I want to talk to you about why you think this might be. In this survey, where they said that atheists and Christians, both, or religiously affiliated Americans, find meaning in their lives in some way, is that atheists were 26% more likely than Christians to describe their hobbies as meaningful or satisfying. So and again, who knows like who was surveyed and how they were surveyed or anything like that. But I wonder if you had an opinion on like why that might be or a thought on why that might be.
Uh, I was gonna, hey, Reason and Science, if you are a Christian, like we've really politely asked you, um, and explained what this space is for. It's not for Christians to come in here and argue and debate with us. There's a lot of other places like that. So I would just ask you nicely to stop.
Yes.
And respect. I do know enough about Christianity that I was in it long enough that you're supposed to act cordially, and if someone get along, as far as it is up to you, get along well with all people. And we're really nicely asking you now. I think it's fourth time that this isn't the place to argue or try to debate. There are other places for that. This is not it. So, like, in the spirit of just being a nice, normal person, could you stop, please? Thanks.
Yeah. I
So,
invoke the fruit of the spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. So use a little self-control.
against such
please.
things, there is no law.
Yeah, and please don't blow up our chat. We want to keep it open in case we have people who are deconstructed, which is what this space is for,
Yeah.
to come in. So thank you. We appreciate that. But anyway, atheists, according to this survey, were 26% more likely than Christians to describe their hobbies as meaningful and satisfying. I was thinking, it's not like by a huge margin because 10% of Christians describe their hobbies as meaningful or satisfying. I just wonder if there's something to that being a little bit more in the moment where you're not thinking of this life as like the dress rehearsal for the big show, like dying and going to heaven, that you might be a little bit more intentional about what you're investing your time in, that you would that was one reason I could think of that maybe atheists would be a little bit more likely to describe their hobbies as more satisfying or meaningful.
And it is, if you have, yeah, I think so. Like I find great joy in the things I do. One of them is guitar, and I mean that's one of I find great peace in that, and enjoyment and satisfaction
Yeah.
in that, and it's a significant part of my life. And I do think that is part of like even what we were talking about. I know for myself and people, not all, but again, being an active, very involved Christian on boards, as a pastor for part of that time, going to Bible college, all those things. I saw um, a lot of people did have that feeling like this, if it wasn't about Christianity and church and reaching people in ministry and outreach, it was somehow not as meaningful and you were kind
Yeah.
of wasting your time because, of course, that is what you would think if you were convinced that there really was this second coming and you really held the key, to witness to others and it was up to you and all of that. Of course, you would think that way. Once I started realizing that's not true and wouldn't even really make sense,
Yeah.
um, and deconstructed, then I started finding those other things about this finite life I do have, because a lot of times it was viewed like, well, yeah, it's important what you do here, but really, like you said, this is a short time, it's a short blip, doesn't really matter. It's about the long term. Awesome if that's true. If it's not, then it kind of flips, and this becomes the most important uh, amount of time we have because it will be the only time we're here. Whatever where we were before we existed, and whatever happens when this stops, if that is all there is, this becomes extremely important how we interact with others, how we reach out to others, how kind we are to others and to all others, not whether they accept our religion or not, or they agree with that kind of thing where everything's contentious and you got to think my way
Yeah, that's
or
what
the
I was thinking
highway.
too.
It's
Yeah.
more about like, okay, what I mean, I was involved in organizations that even talked about like, well, even if there is global warming or something like that, what's the big deal? It's all going to be destroyed anyway. When Jesus
Yeah.
returns,
Really good
there's new
point.
heaven and so like real practical things that could be very important
Yeah.
are not.
Well, another thing is there's almost an element of, if you are like a practicing Christian, that there is something negative about doing anything that's self-fulfilling or that just brings you direct pleasure. So if it's something that you really love and enjoy doing, and it's almost like, that takes a back seat. But those kind of things, those self-care hobbies that give you joy and peace, help you be a kinder, better person just in society, to your significant other, to your friends. So I think there is great value in, like for me, chicken keeping is a great hobby that brings me a lot of joy, a lot of peace. And I don't have any kind of guilt, or there's nothing like, oh, I'm spending this money, this time, these resources on doing this thing that I love. That's not necessarily like serving God. That's not something that I have to think about or that's like hanging over my head. Creative writing, I love. I think that there can sometimes, not in all religious sects, but in some, there can almost be an element of, if you're doing things just for yourself, that's bad or negative in some way. And
I
so that
agree.
could be another reason why atheists are reporting higher levels of satisfaction with hobbies.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Oh, there I go. I got it. So I can't see that.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I know. Once we get our moderator back in, because I think we've gotten a little lax about that, then we can have them kick people like that who are just
I know.
blowing it up for the wrong reasons.
I,
Because I really want to be able to see other people's chats if they have them. But
I know. But that's okay. I don't know like if you just kindly ask a Christian to not do something and they ignore you. I don't know what else to do.
I
I guess
know.
shut them
Well, it
off.
proves, but I think the good thing about that is it kind of proves our point that we've said a lot
Yeah,
of times, that that is one of the downfalls, is that people, a lot of people, not all, but a lot of people who are very dogmatically religious cannot just see people as people and not projects that
yeah,
they cannot leave alone. We've said kindly, this is not what this space is for. It's like, dude, you're making people not like Christian. Like, you are proving the point for us. So in that case, it's like, and we're not even here trying to argue people out of religion. We're just creating a space. But we've talked about people like you, and so I think you kind of prove our point. Like, you're harassing us. That's not very Jesus-y or like Christ-like. So I don't know how else to say leave the chat. Our moderator's not set up
oh,
right
there you
now.
go. He said, and
Okay.
God loves you. I know He does.
Oh,
How could you not?
I mean, we're pretty lovable.
Okay,
Thank
so
you for
awesome.
leaving. Okay, so number 4, unless you had anything else you wanted to say about that.
Yeah, and you will like obviously some of the people that watch us. We've already talked about this. All these kind of Shroud of Turin, uh, intelligent design theory, all those things. Those things have been debated uh, for a long, long time.
Extensively.
Of course, you can believe, that's the whole thing. You can believe whatever uh, evidence you find convincing. The challenge is if you've looked at those same things with an honest, open heart and don't find them convincing, you don't believe. And
Yeah.
that's, um, uh, there isn't much you can do about that.
Yeah.
If two people look at two rock bands and lay out all the facts of why I absolutely believe this is the right one, the best one, the all-time best, and they completely disagree and they go away having different opinions. That's what subjective people do.
Absolutely.
Same thing with religions. I did the same thing. I was subjectively, you know, presented information as a Christian, and a lot of it was emotionally driven, the experience to accept Christ, and then which for me worked at the time, being in a time of crisis and all of that. The challenge is then I was told to now read the Bible because everything in there will be explained. And this is 37 years ago
Hmm.
that I did exactly that and started reading, and don't know how many times I've read through the Bible and studied and all that. Hey, whatever reason one person looks at that and comes away and say, "Oh my gosh, this is the most convincing thing." And for me, it's like, wow, the more I read it, I just see contradictions and man all over this and those
Yeah.
kind of things. Whoever's right, it's not something I chose to do. I chose to read the Bible to believe that it was true because I was told that and I wanted to believe. And but my mind just would not let me come to that
Yeah.
uh, point with what I was reading. And as I asked my pastors and mentors and uh, professors, and eventually you just
Nobody had like a
and then I
satisfying
did find
answer.
there's a whole level of scholarship where people dedicated their entire lives to the languages, the culture, and all of that, and that's probably the first time I started hearing, oh my gosh, they're seeing a lot of the same things I saw just from reading it surface. Just made me understand that people can see all this very differently.
Yeah.
Um, and once that happens, it's evidence, new evidence that would change my mind would be, I would love. I would love to know that there is a good, loving God that has a place for me and my family forever and all of that. I would love that. That's why I was a Christian at first, because that's what they told me. And then, I would love to know that now, but I just don't know that or don't believe that because of what I've been presented and what I've seen just doesn't tell me that at all.
Right.
Exactly. Actually, the opposite. And that wasn't, ever from a place of um, trying not to believe. It was always from a place of wanting to believe and wanting to hold on to that because there was a lot to lose
Yeah. No
from where I
kidding.
was at in life as a pastor at the time. And that was my career. That's what I did for a living. And to walk away from all that because the truth was more me understanding and living to the truth that I saw and understood with a sincere and honest heart was the right thing to do. So good people can go to the same information and come away with completely different beliefs. And that's just that's just reality.
Shroud of Turin crop. Yeah, and I like.
And that's like why there's different religions and different views on all of this is because it's not, some are filled with the demon and being deceived by the devil and all of the stuff I was taught. And if those religions are saying that's why the others aren't getting it, they're not right either. It's because it's what you were raised with, what was presented to you, and what made sense to your mind based on your unique personality, your background, your upbringing, history. For whatever reason, those things all clicked with you, and for others, they don't.
Yeah.
And it would just really be hard to believe that there is a loving God that's going to judge people on something they truly were not able to believe even when they tried to. Like
Yes.
it doesn't really make sense to me. And,
Same.
and that's what this place is for other people that have gone through that kind of experience and found themselves in the same ways. We understand that the majority of the United States is Christian, and that there's all kinds of places where you can go and talk to each other about how true the Shroud of Turin is, and abiogenesis is
Oh.
crazy and evolution is, yeah, we came from monkeys. We get all that. We've heard I've looked at all that carefully. It came up with a different decision. I don't, I'm fine that you have not and you have your decision. Well, I'm not going to doors. I haven't built a building anywhere and am asking people to come in and asking for tithes and to pay my salary or anything like that. I'm just have a little place on the internet
Well,
sharing
we're
our point of view for people that have found the same thing so they might find some companionship or encouragement.
yeah, and we're also not going into Christian live streams and blowing them up with argumentative information and opinions. That's the other difference.
No, there are a lot of live streams very good on both sides. That's all they're about is they love to argue this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to convince anyone's mind. It was
No.
hard enough for me to get my mind right about all of this.
Oh
It was
gosh,
a
same.
very
I can totally
gut
yeah.
wrenching, uh, you know, soul seeking, depth searching, crying out to God, seeking God, all that to get to where I am today. And
Yeah.
but uh, that's where if someone has like some like new evidence that would be, and I always think the best would be God
Yeah, like if you
or Jesus, like
yeah,
that would just answer everything like pretty quickly.
that would be pretty big
Wait, there
evidence.
wouldn't even be a question. You could say, well, I don't want to follow him, but
Yeah, it would depend. Like Bible God, no, 0%. Even if it was like, oh, the God of the Bible is real, I'd be like, oh crap.
yeah, because I was like, yeah, I would. My understanding is you don't have to. Uh, I forgot. I
Something
trailed.
about believing the Bible God.
I trailed off.
Oh, I felt
Must
like
not
it
have
was
been
gonna
too
be
important.
good. I was excited about what that was gonna
But
be.
I appreciate. But it is it, and I do agree. I do. It is a fine line too, because if someone, we have had people that are here that, and they're sincerely asking questions because they're trying to search, but
Yeah.
it's like there's one thing might be like, well, I've heard about uh, intelligent design. There has to be an intelligent creator. What do you think about that? I could share my thought and how I came up with that and how I see lack of intelligence in everything in the world. A sun that we rely on, but it gives you cancer, and the majority of the water on our
That's what
planet
I was
is
gonna say.
poisonous to us. We can't use that. Like in the part of the country I live in, it's not anywhere near the winters like Antarctica or something like that. But there's times in the winter, if man had not evolved over time and learned to create shelter with heat and all of that, you would just die outside. You wouldn't make it 2 days in some of the weather we get around here. So like the thing that it's just,
It's all
I think it's kind
intelligent.
of simplistic for me to think, oh yeah, this intelligence design is just so crystal clear, and um, but that's where it's just weird. I'm saying I have really thought through all of these things, and
Hmm.
but to argue them, I don't really care to because it's different opinions people have. It's subjective. Christianity
Exactly.
is subjective. My thoughts are subjective. It all comes down to an individual taking all the information they've heard, putting it through their filter, and they accept something or they don't. That's what we all do.
That was perfectly said and respectfully said, and I do appreciate that. And I do appreciate
Guilty.
that we have a top fan for the night because we needed a top fan. Oh, he loves us.
Okay, next.
Uh, Number four, facts about atheists. Atheists make up a larger share of the population in many Western European countries than in the US. So France is 23% atheist, which I thought was wild. That's a pretty. I actually went to Paris 2 years
Oui,
ago.
oui.
And I was so excited because I was like, oh, I know this is terrible and this is like a stigma, but I was so excited because I wanted to get like a rude waiter and have the rude waiter like Paris experience. And everyone was so nice and friendly and sweet. And then I was like, well, I
Oh,
gotta check my what's that
well,
called?
what's the one common denominator here?
C'est moi.
You are nice to
I
most people everywhere you go.
oh
Like,
thanks a
well, I was
million.
watching that today, and when we were in the
Aw.
hospital, like, I was watching that. Like, I just thought it was funny how nurses were like stopping in our room and joking, and more were stopping in and
Oh.
then telling us about where they came from and stuff. And I was like, that happens a lot. Why? Because we talk to people and we
Yeah,
don't
that's
like,
you too.
we're not trying to, I'm not trying to, there's no ulterior motive. I'm not trying to convert you. I'm not trying to do anything. Like, I'm just like people. And,
Yeah, you
and,
had to be the most fun patient they had
and
had in
it's,
like months.
and then I was also looking by and I was watching all those people sitting out there that just how they talk to like the receptionist and complaining about the wait and all that and stuff. And it's like, well, so why everybody's nice to you is because you, like
Aw.
mom, I will also say is like that. Gabe, my son, is very nice.
And you are
Same way.
always joking with people and making them
Usually
laugh.
get back. Not always, but if everybody's always mean to you, there might be a reason.
There might be a common denominator.
Look in the mirror.
You might be a jerk if. Yeah, absolutely.
So I like
That's
that.
a really good
So
point.
I know that.
I wonder why Paris or France in particular though would have like almost a quarter of the population is atheist.
I think history, most of that you'd be able to just track through history what
Yeah.
happened at specific times. Like, it's interesting to think of as I did. Well, the whole world's Christian. Who am I to think that it's not? It's all over. This thing spread all over the world. Well, it was pretty small until there were it was pretty small until it became a national religion. Then it became religion of Rome, and then it became a forced religion, and then
Oh, true. Yeah.
the Roman Empire, and then as it became the Catholic religion, and was spread all over the world, and then Europe colonized, the United States colonized. I'm going specifically into places, and we're going to bring modern amenities, health, water, all this, but we're also bringing our religion,
Ugh.
and that's part of it. So,
Yeah.
and again, hey, good or bad, I'm not saying I don't really care, but you cannot deny that's how it spread.
Oh no,
Now,
that's absolutely
someone
yeah.
could say, well, because God was behind that. Sure, the one thing we're lacking in seeing in that is God anywhere in that.
The big
We're
man
seeing
himself.
people doing that, but sure, if God's spiritual and we don't see him and he's really making all that happen, awesome. That's just something that can't be demonstrated in any
Yeah.
way. But if you, but yeah, if a nation is going to go force other people to believe a certain way to get certain things, of course you're gonna see those. It's the same thing with Islam, Muslim, uh, other religions.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see what number 5 is. Do you have the mouse? Or do I have you have the mouse? Oh, yeah. Most number 5 facts about atheists is most US atheists express concerns about the role religion plays in society. Let me agree with that one. I agree with that one so hard because if the Bible is your metric of how to run your country, we are all doomed. Like unless you're just like you can pluck out the golden rule, which was some ancient Chinese proverb, not even like a Jesus original or Bible original. That's fine. Most of the Bible is not like of the do unto others persuasion, though. I don't think at all. Most of the Bible's like, if someone harms you, pluck their eye out.
I mean, the biggest challenge with the love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself, those both are come out of the Old Testament, and right around them tells how you can go in and wipe out nations, including the children, keeping the
Yes.
virgins as your spoils of war.
Yeah.
How you can, in surrounding passages, it talks about how if you back in that same time when you were supposed to love God with all your, because it came from those were not originally the New Testament. They were summing up all the laws hang on one of those two, and they were talking about the laws of Moses, which are all the first 5 books of the Old Testament. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul was right there amongst you could, and love your neighbors yourself, or do unto others as you would have them do unto you, was right in there with owning slaves as property, and their children could be passed on for generations, and you could,
Yeah.
take virgin brides and bring them home and have them mourn for 30 days, and now they're your wife or concubine, and they have to have sex with you, and like So that was in
Yeah.
whatever culture. That's why I think it was men writing that, because I don't think an all loving God would say, that's doing unto others as you would want them to do to yourself. If I was captured in war, I wouldn't want to be forced into a position where I had to be some dude's sex slave. And even if he gave me 30 days to mourn my family he had just killed, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm so grateful for saving me. I would, there would be all other kinds of things I would want him to do to me. Why not say, like, here, I just wiped out your family. Here's part of my resources.
Yeah.
Go far away and start over. Like, they're
Yeah.
an all creative, all powerful
Or
God.
like not wipe out your family in the first
Yeah,
place,
could
maybe.
come up with a limitless options
Yes.
on other ways to handle that. So that's why I think it was men writing that, because
I
that's
don't
what.
think a gal would have written that.
No, and I think that's what men did to men in those days in all
Correct.
cultures. It's. I was surprised to find out how similar the biblical laws were to, like, Hammurabi's laws.
Hmm.
Some of them borrowed exactly,
They're very,
and
yeah.
they were predated by other laws, so they were all borrowing from all the cultures around them and just adding in their different gods.
Yeah.
Um,
And once you see that, it's kind of hard to unsee it,
it's
honestly.
really
There's a
hard to
lot of
unsee
crossover.
that.
A lot of crossover.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
yeah.
so that is where I go back and forth. Like, do I think it does harm? Yeah, I think it does harm on society, religion, and I also think it does good too. So I'm not like, um, how you weigh all that. I don't know.
If there was a way to separate the judgment, like the judgmental attitude and the guilt, I just think there's so much baggage associated with dogmatic religion, or just even with, I mean, the whole premise of Christianity is believe this way, or when you die, you get tortured for eternity by a loving God. And so I don't know how you separate that into not being a fear based thing. And that's where I've gotten into not like heated fights, but arguments with people about if something is at its core fear based, and that's what the Bible says, then how do you, unless you have in your mind like made some kind of your own version of it, like, oh, that, that sounds harsh, so this is my version, then that, whatever, that's fine. But it is fear based, like at its core. And so I can understand why a lot of atheists, oh, we're only 4% of the population, guys, so no big deal, but like take umbrage with, this could be harmful because it's all based on fear. And then when you have like it impacting real life events, when you have a legit warmongering God, which he was, like in the Old Testament, he loved him some war and was not, he would tell you to like wipe out entire civilizations, like genocide. Uh, when you see that play out in real time and hear like political leaders saying that they're doing God's work by like going into war and stuff, and I'm very apolitical. I think both sides are corrupt, but you can actually see religious dogma playing out in politics, which is affecting like real life, real events. That's kind of frightening. So I would agree that I don't think it has any place in politics or in like society,
Yeah,
unless you like in your own time want to practice it. As long as it's not the bad stuff, like
yeah, and that's why I think the United States is not based on the Bible or anything like that.
it's not.
Obviously, it's not.
Oh yeah,
It's
where was that? There's something in here that talked about. Yeah, the U.S. Constitution says no religious test is necessary to hold public office. That was another interesting thing too. That they said. Oh, this is the next thing. Well, we can go to that. Atheists may not believe religious teachings, but tend to be quite informed about religion. And I think that is the mistake that a lot of people make when they're like, well, oh, you guys just don't get it. I know a lot about the Bible, like a lot, and I had chapters and books, literal books of the Bible memorized. Have studied it, grew up studying it, was number one in junior Bible quiz, teen Bible quiz. Like I know a lot. And in fact, the deeper I got into the Bible, the less I believed it was true. So that's what this survey was saying also, is that on average, atheists answered 18 out of 32 fact based questions correctly, while other US adults, presumably of some religious affiliation, got roughly 14 questions right. In particular, atheists were twice as likely as Americans overall to know that the US Constitution says no religious test is necessary to hold public office. But do people think it is?
Probably because it's a Christian nation. There's just a
Okay.
lot of that would just assume it's a Christian nation. And I think even like um, the idea that you had to get your hand sworn in on the Bible
Oh,
and
well,
that kind
yeah,
of thing.
sure.
But
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think I never thought that, but I'd see like I think these are interesting topics they bring up. Like
I do
atheists may
too.
not believe religious teachings, but are quite informed about religion. Like I don't know historically because I was not in the non-religious. I mean everything like that. The first guest was sharing. I used to say all the same thing. That's how I know they're not true,
Not the Shroud of Turin stuff, though.
or that there's not enough evidence that declares any of that stuff that is just factually true and understood by the majority
Yeah.
of scientists or people who have studied that this is all accurate. There's not. It's all still up in the air, and I've studied enough to know that. That's where but like as far as what I did find out, there was a lot of that kind of stuff that I heard people saying that was supposedly Bible related that backed up their faith. And then when I read the Bible, I found out it's not in there. And there's a lot of contradictions. And, even like in the Old Testament, that the law of God would last forever in the temples and the sacrifice would be there, and the Gentiles would come in and do sacrifices and be circumcised in the new heaven and new earth, and that the law would never pass away, none of it. And then Jesus said it would. And well, Jesus said actually it would. And he said, "Mm, those who do the least of this law will be greatest in heaven or teach others to do it." Paul is the one that then kind of contradicts that in the New Testament. I didn't know all of that because I was taught things kind of in pieces. And it was through reading it all through. And again, it's if you want to when I was just reading apologists um, for Christianity, who could have their doctorates or PhDs and talk about it from that point of view, that's all I ever listened to. And then I started realizing there's this whole world out there of people who devote their lives to scholarly study of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, you can go on Fox News. I saw it last week, and and they were just tripping out. Even the announcers were just like almost giddy as they're interviewing this guy who they're claiming that they found Noah's Ark in Turkey again, and it's like
Oh.
we just did some kind of scans and it shows that there's a beam down there and it's what could be corridors. Again, that's what we always have. What we don't have
Oh.
is excavating this, and there's reasons they can't because of where it's at in Turkey. They're trying to work that out. Hey, I'd be the first to admit if you uncover an ark, a giant ark, and it's exactly the way it's described, and there's animals in there, or remains of fossilized animals and all that, well, that's going to at least make me start thinking a whole lot more about this could be true than not. But up to what we usually get are the things that are very easy to say, like places.
Yeah.
Historical places are always included in books and
I know, and I think I'm still even if they uncovered that arc and it fit the dimensions and blah blah. I think Occam's razor. I'd be more apt to think, okay, some people built a really big boat and wrote about it and recorded the measurements
mm,
correctly, than to think a god got angry at the people he had created and flooded the entire world to kill them and brought two of every species of animal on this boat. I don't know. I just that suspends so much belief for me.
yeah.
Now I would think, okay, that's kind of cool. So in this historical book, they did record this very accurately. I think that would be cool, and certainly, yeah, it would make you go, well, oh, hopefully God doesn't see this live stream. But
Yeah, dude, like I think the it's just funny how people view things so differently.
yeah,
How And I get it because I used to say the same thing. How look at the world? How can you not? And
oh yeah, I used to say
I
that too.
started to really think about that, and I started to think about well, one thing I look at and I do see is the natural world. One thing I have never, ever, ever seen is God or
Right.
Jesus. well, you can't see him. You won't see him. Well, that's convenient, but it's also like, and then, all those things about everything being perfect, the intelligent design, you just, if things were changed just the smallest bit, and find out all that stuff's not true. Like other people have studied and looked at that, and it's like, that stuff's not, it was
Yeah,
just kind of like cliche answers, apologetic answers, started to undermine that. So I see
yeah,
what you're saying.
absolutely.
Like, but I would say what I have found, and I think I started all this on watching a lot of the atheists, knowing a lot more about the Bible than the people that are trying to defend Christianity, is because that's how I think they became atheists. So many of us,
Yeah.
because they really studied the Bible.
I
And
think that's the point that was, or not even the point, but that was the point I was trying to make from that article. Was I think the assumption is atheists don't know anything about the Bible
yeah,
or the history of the Bible.
and a lot of them do because they've wanted to know and they wanted to believe and they really studied it. And then not just what they're being told, but outside sources like people who've devoted their lives to studying these things. And
Yeah.
you start finding out like just I just hear it over and over again listening to those debates. Like I was referring that gentleman to go check out. Like I heard one last week where it was like the host brought up like, well, there are no biblical Old Testament in their original context prophecies of Jesus. And the guy's like, well, right off, like Isaiah 7, it will be born of a virgin. And, they go through the whole thing. That the guy who was so dogmatic, absolutely certain that was true, did not even realize there was that was a prophecy to a king in that time because
Yeah.
he'd never read beyond those verses. And I think it's that kind of thing that I've seen a lot is among atheists who, because they were not like myself, not trying to disprove it, trying
Yeah.
to prove it by being told, you read this book and understand it, you will be convinced it's true. And that's what I thought would happen.
Same.
Yeet.
The opposite
All
happened.
right, well, we've got about a few more minutes,
Well,
so
we
what's
can
our
crank through
next?
these. 7. Most Americans don't think believing in God is necessary to be a good person. So that's not even atheists. That's just most Americans. And 73% said it is possible to be moral and have good values without believing in God. I used to think that too, but it conflicted me because I could look at atheist family members, and you know who I'm talking about, and say, wow, he's actually a more moral, upstanding person than a lot of Christians that I know. And how can that be if you're
Yeah,
supposed to see all this evidence of the Holy Spirit living in you if you're a Christian? And yet, this is one of the most salt of the earth, like just good people that I know.
yeah,
And so I knew, but it bothered me because I'm like, that's not what you would take away reading the Bible. You'd take away that anyone who wasn't saved was of the world and therefore bad and like contaminated. You shouldn't associate with them because then you're going to catch their disease of being worldly and stuff. So I think that's interesting though that 73% of Americans agree with that because I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought they'd say no. People that don't believe are the world and you shouldn't associate with
I
them.
think a lot of the I think a lot of the churches that we were involved in, being more fundamentalist or
Yeah.
evangelical, do definitely have that belief that it's it's an evil, wicked person, and really until they're saved, it's just like we're all like
Yeah.
evil and wicked in our core. But with once you're saved, at least you have the Holy Spirit, and one day all things are going to be made new, old will be gone. We'll be in heaven where there's no more sin and death, mourning, crying, and pain, and all of that.
Yeah.
But how they viewed people who were non-believers, it was like, yeah, they're just wicked, like
Yes. And you
extra.
shouldn't even associate with them because then
It,
you'll become like
it
them.
is a project or
Mm.
a someone to be won, not someone to know and build a relationship and get to know and care about. It was something different, and not saying that's what they all do. We've
No.
definitely experienced that in the circles that many circles, because being a Christian for 35 years, I was around a lot of different denominations and beliefs, and a lot of them held that. And
Same. Yeah.
Catholicism, very similar. I was raised Catholic, and it was not something you went out and try. They were, try to convert people. It's just we're the ones that are saved and have the truth. And then you saw more evangelical waves along different periods of time. But um, yeah, it's really looking down, particularly on atheists. And I don't think that's the way it is. I don't,
Like for most.
even from that must be true that it's not. It was
I know,
just
that's so
those
interesting.
circles I think that we were in, because there's other types of religions that are not that dogmatic or, um, you know, you take out the inerrancy of scripture and this has no errors and that whole mess where you got to try to make every word in here be true and not contradict itself. You get yourself tied in some knots about other people with that.
Oh, absolutely. How can you not? Well, we might have time for our last one. We're at 5:59. Our very last one is about 3/4 of U.S. Let me try again. About, I need the power of the Holy Spirit. About 3/4 of U.S. atheists, 77%, do not believe in God or a higher power or in a spiritual force of any kind. That to me is not an interesting fact about an atheist. That would make sense.
Yeah.
But so, shocker, 77% of atheists don't believe in God. Okay. Or a higher power. I think they're saying like, or any kind of spiritual higher being, which to me was not shocking at all. But
It even says there fewer than 1% of U.S. atheists say they believe in God as described in the Bible, which
you can't be an atheist and believe in
they
God.
must be asking something. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm missing something there.
Clearly, same.
But I do. There are non-theists. They don't believe in a God, but they may believe in spirits or the supernatural or something like
Sure.
that. I have heard of, and I don't know any of it.
I don't either. I want there to be supernatural stuff because I'm into it. I just haven't seen evidence of it yet. That's what we'll say. Well, that was an exciting night. We got our first heckler.
I think he was a fine gentleman who just wanted to share love. Is how I'm going to view it.
Okay.
He wanted to win us with the love of Christ.
Did it win you?
Yeah, he tried though.
Oh, he did.
It was
And
like
he did finally leave.
And even said bye bye. Love, God loves you. I loves that.
Oh. And he won his top fan badge.
Yep.
Oh.
So that was awesome. Well,
Yeah,
hey
it was
guys,
fun.
same time next week, and remember, it's okay to ask questions. Like,
Of course.
if there could be, and it's okay to think differently than
Yeah.
other people. It really is. That's the way it is.
Preach.
Okay.
Preach.
All right.